This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.
And I will call this meeting to order. So, Megan.
Megan Harvey here.
Ben.
Ben Hersey here.
Lori.
Lori Garcia here.
Maren.
Maren Goldstein here.
Shannon.
Shannon Dunham here.
And Cindy Kwasinski here. Welcome to our school committee meeting. So let us begin. I don't have any announcements except to say that we finally, the mayor's here. Good. Excellent. We will hold up. Welcome, Mayor. Well, I'll wait till she connects with audio. Okay. Good evening, Mayor. We'll let you roll call in. We just literally started the meeting, so we'd love to hear you. Say you're here.
Mayor LaChapelle, aye. Here.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so the only announcement I have is that we did straighten out the Zoom link, so we will not have to cancel meetings anymore. We're all set, up and running. Megan Harvey and I tested it 5 times, and we're good to go, and it went smoothly tonight. So no more canceled meetings because of tech difficulties. So I'm happy to announce that. All right, Megan, do we have any correspondence?
This might be my first time saying there is no correspondence.
Wow.
We welcome your emails.
Yeah. Do we have gifts?
Not that I'm aware of.
Okay, Lori?
I'm sorry, I should have let Megan know that we do have an upcoming gift, and that's Tandem Bagels, who has once again graciously accepted the plea to donate more bagels for our event this Thursday. So we've never proposed that in writing or anything, and we've never voted to accept it, but I do want to say that it is a very noteworthy and appreciated gift.
Yes, it definitely is. Well, thank you, Tandem Bagels. Okay, we start our student representative update early. So,
good evening,
Mackenzie.
everyone. Hi, thank you for having me. This past Friday, Easthampton High had other student councils from Western Mass to the school for the WMASC Fall Conference that we hosted. We are currently planning the homecoming dance, which will be November 5th. Spirit Week will be the week leading up to the dance. We will also have a pep rally on Friday, November 4th. This Friday from 5:30 to 7, the Hispanic Heritage Month Fiesta and Art Show will be held in the cafeteria. And that's all I have.
All right, thank you. So I have student award here. Dr.
That's
Leclerc?
me.
Yep.
That's me. Thank you. So this evening, I'm very happy to share some exciting news with you. We have Jonathan Belcher Timmy on the call tonight. And Jonathan has received a really prestigious award. And so I wanted to make the school committee and the public aware of this. So if I could just read you something briefly. This evening, I'm proud to announce that Jonathan Belcher Timmy has been named a commended student in the 2023 National Merit Scholarship Program. There are about 34,000 commended students throughout the nation that are being recognized for their exceptional academic promise. Those being named commended students have demonstrated outstanding potential for academic success, commented a spokesperson for the National Merit Scholarship Company. These students represent a valuable national resource. They're being recognized for their accomplishments, as well as the key role that the school plays in their academic development, and it's vital to the advancement of educational excellence in our nation. So we're very proud to share this news with all of you tonight. And I would just like to say congratulations to Jonathan. He received a letter of commendation. I think you received that letter already, right, Mr. Evans? Yes. But I just really wanted to recognize him publicly for this outstanding achievement. So, Jonathan, I know you're here this evening, and so congratulations to you. We're all so proud of you, and it's a great accomplishment for Easthampton Public Schools and Easthampton High School. So, Jonathan, I don't know if you want to say anything about your accomplishment, but now's the time to unmute if you'd like to say anything.
Thank you.
We're very proud of you, Jonathan. Great accomplishment.
That is a big accomplishment. Excellent. Nice job. Very
Congratulations.
good. Yeah. All right. So now it's time to open up for public comment. So please keep your comments to 3 minutes and state who you are. And please make sure that you signal. I do see Ann right now, so I will call on Ann.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for having me. My name is Ann Talley. I'm a parent in the district. I have a 5th grader and a 2nd grader. I'm also the PTO co-chair, but tonight I'm here in my role as the outreach coordinator for the Healthy Youth Coalition. I just wanted to share with you all some of the things that we're up to, because we're pretty excited about some of the programs that we have going right now. At the middle school level, we just started a program called Mindfulness Mondays, where on Mondays after school, we're having various practitioners to teach students different stress relaxation and meditation techniques, starting with yoga. Then we're moving into kind of a playful meditation. After that, we're going to be doing vision boards and collage, juggling and movement arts. And then we're hoping to have the pinnacle project in the spring be like a 2 month long kind of photography or photojournalism program. So if you know any middle school students, please let them know, because it's free. It's a pretty great program, and we've already lined up some wonderful people to help with it. Secondly, at the high school level, we have a program called Getting to Why, and this is a program where a team of Easthampton high school students are looking at the PNAS data. That's a prevention needs assessment data, sort of health information we get from the students in 8th, 10th, and 12th grade. They are looking at the data, trying to make sense of it, understand how to read statistics, how to find patterns, and then sort of pick out different poignant things that stick out to them and do some kind of project with it. What do they want the community to know about them from the information? And it's a great opportunity, especially because it's a paid opportunity. So every time the kids come, they get $15 to $20 per meeting. And it's like a 45-minute time. So it's like you could do it for a job too, honestly, and have your voice heard. Besides that, we have a parent book club that we are starting tomorrow. The first meeting is tomorrow. I'm running that. The parent book club this month is called Getting to Calm. It's about cool-headed strategies for parenting tweens and teens. I know I definitely use some of that. I'm sure everybody else can as well. We're going to be having it virtually and in person at the Emily Williston Library. And the next time we're having a parent book club will be in January. So the next time, if you want to join in, or if anybody else wants to join, they can pick up the next book, which is going to be a great book called Brainstorm by Dan Siegel. He's also written a book called The Whole Brain Child, which some people have recommended as well. And I think, there's 2 more quick things. I'm running out of my time. Next week, we're having a community walk on the bike path, meeting in front of City Hall. This is going to be with our health department, the police department, the Council on Aging, some city councilors. We're just trying to create an opportunity for people to get together, just chat, make friends, get some exercise, and just create community. And then the last thing I wanted to say is that our Healthy Youth Coalition has opened up our meetings to the public. So we used to have a monthly meeting with just the members of the coalition, and we decided we'd like to welcome anyone to come, to hear from all sorts of different people. Everybody is in this together when it comes to raising teens and tweens, especially when it comes to their mental health, their wellness and substance use prevention, and how to talk to them about that stuff. So thanks so very much for having me.
Thank you. Shelley? Shelley?
Hi, sorry about that.
That's okay.
This is Shelley. I live on Maple Street. I am calling in tonight about the newsletter that we all received earlier in September. And it brought to our attention about this new program with SEL and all these programs of CRT that are going to be taught this year. And I wanted to do some research on it, and I went onto the school page and went to all the curriculum. None of it was available. All the links are broken for what's going to be taught. So we can't even look through what it is that they're trying to do. On top of it, I'm going to turn my camera on, if I can figure it out here. And why is it doing that? Here we go. Okay. When you click on the social justice and equity resources, and these are all part of the equity and inclusion on the Easthampton page, when you go to here, it talks about white like me, privileged walk activity, race, the power of illusion, waking up white. My daughter's not transgender, she's a tomboy. The pill and a sexual revolution. I mean, if you just go on here and click and look around, it's pretty shocking. And I don't think this is a place that should be taught in school. I think these are things that should be dealt with at home or based off of what people's personal religions are. And I think that it's something that we need to look into. Privilege and power activities, revolutionist history podcasts, witnessing whiteness. My son's a mixed household. He's Hispanic and Caucasian. And I don't want him learning that kind of stuff in school. A lot of parents are starting to realize that this is going on. We want to see all of the curriculum posted publicly so we can look at everything. We want to know a lot more detail about what's going into this and what's happening. This SEL program that's pushed through the federal government for free lunch. Do we really need free lunch through the federal government? We want answers. A lot of us parents are very upset and we're looking for some information. So we're not wrongfully accusing anything, but the information's not there. And you sent out a newsletter with nothing to back up what you're going to be teaching them. So we are left in the dark. And I think that's really wrong and it needs to be addressed. We need to have transparency. We want to know what our kids are being taught and we want to know before it's taught. And we want to have the options for all to opt out. And I know that there's some laws that allow us to opt out of certain things, but not all of them. But if we can't get this under control for parents that don't want these things taught to their children, a lot of people will be leaving the school system. I can promise that. A lot of us have already been talking and looking into other schools. We never thought this was going to come to Easthampton. We heard about it in other states, and it's really, really shocking and disappointing to see waking up white. I mean, does that sound like something that children should be learning? Basically, it's instilling racism. You're trying to correct racism by teaching racism. So basically, it just doesn't work. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. So I do see CS has a hand raised. You're going to have to tell us who you are so that because CS is not something or someone that I could call on. So if you please identify yourself, then you can speak.
Hi, this is Catherine Sandler. My daughter is in elementary school. I just kind of wanted to back up what Shelley had to say. I also, and along with other parents, have concerns about the newsletter that was recently sent out. I've asked multiple times. I asked the director of curriculum for a reading list. I've asked the teacher, the superintendent for my daughter's reading list, even if I could get it by month, if that's not quite available yet. I haven't received anything. Not only do I want to know what she's learning in school, but it also helps me help her in school if she's behind on something. So that's a tiered issue there. I have my concerns with what Shelley talked about, but then it can also help my child in school. In the newsletter, you stated that Do you feel like it's your responsibility to co-parent kids in the community? I disagree with you. I feel like school's responsibility to help teach my child, prevent bullying, those types of things, but it's not your job to teach those topics that should be taught at home. I've reached out to a few people at the school, and I mean, more information would be great. So at least parents that have concerns like us can get some more information and have more conversations about it. But we haven't gotten any additional information, and all the links on the website aren't working when you click on them. So it makes it really hard to know what's going on at school. That's all.
Thank you. Anybody else? Okay, Lisa.
Hi, everyone. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I appreciate it. And I would go on my video, but I just got back from the gym. So, so thank you so much for hearing me out here. So I just to preface, I'm from Northampton originally. I'm fourth generation from Northampton. My husband's from East Longmeadow. We moved to the amazing town of Easthampton. We're so psyched. Our kids are kindergarten, just started school. We have a daughter in preschool. Just cannot say enough about, how amazing Easthampton is as a town and community. And I just feel a little bit defeated from the same newsletter that was sent out to all of us parents. We're all aware that many curriculums across the country are using social emotional learning in their K-8 school curriculums. And we're also aware that, this sort of theoretical, controversial teaching about things like power and privilege, as well as things like sexual identity, which really are tenets of critical race theory. And it also sort of teaches children how to be social justice activists and points children towards sexual topics that are deemed inappropriate to many of us families, especially, in our elementary school age children. There are many parents and teachers who are unaware that these concepts like critical race theory and comprehensive sexual education are being taught under the guise of social emotional learning. So there are many teachers that I have talked to that aren't they don't quite know about it. But it does need to be brought to the attention of, to not only parents, but to teachers as well, But so, we send our children to be taught facts, not to get routine therapy or to try to navigate their feelings and emotions. I'm a medical provider in the community. And it really concerns me that, some of this SEL implementation tends to resemble the practice of unlicensed therapy. If this were merely a program on having empathy for others, spreading kindness, putting an end to bullying, gosh, we can stand behind that. SEL is not just that. We believe that teachers should remain politically and ideologically neutral when they are in the classroom. And quite frankly, any politics or ideology should stay out of the curriculum. Or, maybe an optional outside of school normal hours, option. It really is just a backdoor for critical race theory and gender ideology. And they just have no place for young growing minds who aren't mature enough to conceptualize or understand. And if they do need to have that, then they should probably, there's other resources out there if parents feel that that's necessary. We believe, and when I say we, this is on behalf of my husband and I and a lot of families that, in this community that I'm sort of, speaking on behalf of a lot of families here, but, we believe in teaching children how to think and not what to think. And we also object to curriculums trying to usurp the role of parents in teaching morality. Despite many of us parents opposing these teachings, many of us consider ourselves very diverse, very inclusive in thought, behaviors, and we're not opposed to the notion that it's good for students to develop social and emotional skills. We agree that schools have a role to play in their human development. But what we're concerned about is the effort to leverage the words social and emotional to promote ideological and political narrative. We encourage DESE, our school system, our teachers, just let our kids be kids. Thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'm looking. If you want to speak, this is the time to signal. Okay. Wait a minute. Okay. There's Lindsay. Lindsay McGrath.
Hi, yeah, my name's Lindsay McGrath. I'm also a parent of a kindergartner at the new school. I'm not going to reiterate everything that everyone just said. You all just did a great job, but I do want it to be known that I also back them up and agree that it doesn't need to be taught in school. That is supposed to be taught at home by parents. We all have different beliefs and values that need to be respected. What I want my kid to learn in school is math, science, history, geography, art, music, sports, kindness, and just to be friends. I don't believe that kids see race and see all the stuff that you want them to be taught, but they will be taught. They will see race. I don't support a lot of the stuff that's going on. Even the Black Lives Matters. My daughter is white, and she asked me what that flag means, and then she looks at her skin and asks why she doesn't matter, and it breaks my heart. To me, I've always felt like all lives matter. So anything along that line, I have a tough time getting on board with. I also have spoken to a lot of friends and a lot of neighbors who feel the exact same way. So I won't go into anything more except to say that I back what everyone else is saying on this call so far. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Okay, anybody else? Okay, I don't see anybody else going once. Now's the time. Twice. Okay, seeing nobody else who would like to speak, I'm going to close public speak. Thank you. Okay, on to presentations and discussion items. Mcas overview.
Yes, I'll just give the intro for Julianne.
Sure.
Julianne is our Director of Curriculum and Grants and Diversity and Social Emotional Justice and ELL and all kinds of things. Julianne is here this evening in her capacity as kind of overseeing the academic and instructional aspects of our programming in Easthampton. And this evening she's here to share with you some information about our latest Mcas results. So the Mcas results just came out recently, and just a message for families that I know are awaiting the actual individual student results that we mail home. We just received those at the end of last week, so our administrative assistants are preparing the mailing labels, and we hope to get those out to families at the beginning of next week. So they'll have individual scores at the beginning of next week. So Julianne will give us some insights into how we did as a school district. So Julianne, I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you so much. Well, it's hard to follow up public speak, but can I share my screen? Am I allowed to? Oh, I am. Great. Awesome. Thank you. And I'll start this by saying, I apologize if the website isn't up to date. I'm working on it. It will be. And today I'm just going to talk about our accountability and our Mcas data. I am curriculum, grants, diversity, yes, EL, SEL, and I'm open for, my email is open for all of the questions about where we are in the district today. So where we are at this moment is that our Mcas data has become unembargoed, and we are back in the accountability cycle for DESE. That means that, and you'll see this in a second, there was a timeline where we were not part of the accountability formula because of COVID. And even this year, they are not giving accountability levels to schools because they don't really have much to compare it to, given that the last 3 years of testing have been a little bit rocky. So I offer this as a starting point for the next phase of our work together, rather than how pre-COVID I would have said, this is how we compare to last year, this is how we've grown. I'm going to try to do a little of that, but know that there wasn't Mcas in 2020. There was an abbreviated MCAS in 2021, and we finally got back to actual MCAS in 2022, but actual MCAS isn't everything either. So I want to start with that Dr. LeClaire and I went to a training last week that is a new initiative from DESE, and they've contracted with some educators from Harvard Graduate School to talk to the Commonwealth and the leaders in the Commonwealth about racial diversity, racial equity, and inclusion. And they gave us this framework that I really appreciated. I think often when we talk about equity, and it's actually in our strategic plan, that we need a common definition of equity in Easthampton. And this was a structure, a framework that was very attractive to me when it was presented. So the ABCDs of diversity and inclusion, and the A is academics. And so I'm going to talk to you today about how we're doing academically, and I'm going to talk about disproportionality in our data, because I think that that's our next step as a district, is to look at how are our student subgroups doing academically, and where do we go from here knowing what we know about those equity gaps. So I wanted to present this to you, the ABCDs, because I think we're going to be talking about it a lot more as we continue. I'm just going to leave this here. I'm not going to talk about B, C, or D. I feel like that brings up a lot that I don't need to address today. Academics is why we're here today. I would love to come back and talk about B, C, and D on a different presentation. All right, so does MCAS equal accountability? It's a great question. I hear a lot of people asking me about MCAS. Why does MCAS matter so much? Why do we do MCAS? And Julianne, you understand about systemic racism and oppression, so why do you think standardized testing is okay? I love that question. I'm ready to answer it. We in Easthampton use MCAS results for improvements in teaching and learning, school and district accountability, and student accountability. The student accountability is the competency determination in 10th grade. The school and district accountability is to make sure that we are offering a consistent program across our schools. That's a little different now that we don't have so many separate elementary schools. Now we know we can look at the consistency of teaching across grade levels, and we're not as worried about the consistency across schools. Improvements in teaching and learning is huge. I'm a curriculum director. I want to know if the curricular products and the supplemental materials that I'm offering to teachers are actually meeting their needs in how to deliver the best programming to students. So that's what I use MCAS results for. I didn't put this on the slide, but here's what MCAS results are not used for. Teacher evaluation, ever. We don't use MCAS for teacher evaluation. Student evaluation for services, never. Those are not ways that we use these data. And I wanted to say that because I feel like people are very concerned about how MCAS results are used and why their student has to take MCAS. For me, it is big picture thinking about how our programming is consistent and equitable. That's neither here nor there in terms of our MCAS results, but that's what I really attach to in terms of why I think we need that kind of benchmarking. We only ever use MCAS as one point of data. We have many ways that involve teacher professionalism and their expertise and their teaching and their subject areas to identify when students are in need. But I still think that MCAS as a benchmark is an important place to notice where we are in Easthampton in comparison to the state, in comparison to the country. So that's why I come every year and talk to you about MCAS. It's not because I love it, because I understand all the reasons why in origin, it's not the best method, but it is useful for us in improving what we do. Accountability. So MCAS does not equal accountability. I probably should have labeled this slide differently. Accountability also includes improvements in student subgroup, and that's still about MCAS. Chronic absenteeism, not at all about MCAS. Graduation and dropout rates, not about MCAS. Completion of advanced coursework, so that's students who are in AP classes, perhaps. There are other advanced courses beyond AP, but that's one of them. And then, of course, there's participation in MCAS, which is the question I get a lot. Why can't I just opt my kid out of MCAS? So you're going to see in another slide what that looks like. When parents opt their students out of MCAS, what happens to our accountability? All right, a pandemic timeline. The last time we got an accountability determination was in 2019. At that point, Center School was in the 10th percentile, and we were in year 2 of turnaround. In 2020, there was no MCAS, so there was no accountability formula. In 21, DESE offered the abbreviated version of MCAS. It was like a shorter test. It was fine. It was a good way to benchmark how are students still acquiring foundational skills over Zoom, in remote learning. Are we still, up to date with understanding where our students are in comparison to the state? And then we got to last spring. I won't call it post-pandemic, but post the accountability formula hiatus. And we were fully implemented with next generation MCAS. That means that the test that was given in 2022 is actually a different test than was given in 2019. So when I say that we are at the first benchmarking year, I mean, we're not comparing our data to anything that's come before. We're at kind of this new place. And I appreciate that. I think it's always good to sort of, stop and pause and look at what we've done and then start fresh. So I'm actually really excited about this. The newest updated standards have been the shifts that were made in literacy, math, and science. You can look at all of that on the DESE website under the frameworks for Massachusetts. So all of those new updated standards were taken into consideration when compiling the new next gen MCAS. So everything DESE gives you, DESE is the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I'm going to try to do better with this part, the EduSpeak. So when we have this new data, it's really new data. They're starting us fresh from here. So we didn't actually get an accountability level for any of our schools this year. I'll show you that in a second. What we did do was we did manage to graduate some high school classes without the competency determination, which was pretty great. So DESE put into place a modified competency determination, and the classes of 2020, 21, and 22, and our upcoming class of 23 will all have a slightly different competency determination than just MCAS this year. And what that means is that they passed, so met the standards in coursework instead of on the competency determination assessment, which is MCAS. I'm sorry if that's confusing. Again, please email me. I've got lots of answers for all of your questions. The other thing that happened in spring of 22 was it was the final year of splitting our 3rd and 4th grade classes at Center, Pepin, and Maple. So all of our data this year in 2023 is going to be completely new. So as new as the 22 data was, the 23 data is going to be even newer because it's not going to look like any of the data that we've gotten before. And the reason that is because the state likes to compare us to like schools or like districts. And because we've completely changed the structure of our district in terms of where our schools are and what our grade spans are, we will be compared to a whole new set of schools. So we get like fresh slate after fresh slate for the next couple of years. And I think that that's really exciting. And again, more reason why MCAS is never used in the evaluation of a teacher's skills or a student's skills at that at the level where we would be giving more resources for those schools or for those students. Okay, here it is. This is our official accountability report. This is totally public information, and I encourage everyone to go to school and district profiles on the Massachusetts DESE website, because it's got so many tools. And if you're interested in data at all, like, do you see where on this slide, I've highlighted the schools in this district so you can see our accountability percentiles, but that other one that's not highlighted that says detailed data for each indicator, oh my goodness, there's so much information if you just click on that one instead of the one I clicked on. I'm not going to put that all into a slide presentation, but I highly recommend looking at it because you'll be able to see one after another all of the accountability indicators and how Easthampton compares to other like districts or other like schools on those accountability indicators. So I'm giving you the briefest of rundowns here, how we're doing in Easthampton. Before the pandemic, we know that Center School went into turnaround. Center School, as of last spring, was in the 46th percentile. None of our schools, even in the old accountability formula, would have been identified as needing assistance this year. All of our schools are making progress towards their indicator targets. That feels like a big win. I'll tell you why. This is the first year that I've been in Easthampton, and most of you are super tired of me, so you know I've been here. It's my 7th year. And this is the first year that we have not been identified, which means that all of the things we're putting in place for sequenced curriculum across the district are working. The one thing I do want to draw your attention to on this report that is, kind of fun is that Maple is, first of all, in the 84th percentile, which means that Maple in its final year was achieving at, Maren, just sending you a question. I don't know how to do, I forgot how to do this. I haven't done a Zoom presentation in a while.
That's okay.
Call on you. I don't think I can call on you. Is that right?
I can't comment or ask question.
Cindy,
you're muted, so you're talking to yourself right now. Sorry.
All right, Julia, you can call on Merritt if you see him, and school committee members can jump in.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much. Okay, Merritt.
So I wanted to say something back to your comments, because first off, we are very appreciative of you working in our school district. And I would actually say these results are exactly in direct relationship with you being a part of our school district and bringing the education to our students. So the fact that we are not accounted for this time is exactly because of the hard work that you've been doing. So I want to just make sure that you don't need to say those things. We love you.
I appreciate that. I know I apologize too much for myself. Thank you. I appreciate that, Maren. I don't want anyone to come away from this thinking that we are doing this for the purpose of Mcas. As a curriculum director, it's so important to me that everyone understands that we are in this for students, not for test results. And so I really appreciate that. And thank you so much. But this is not because we are teaching to the test. This is because we have a highly dedicated staff who wants to see students succeed in the world. And that's where I want to just place my appreciation for right now. Yes, these accountability percentiles, the way that our teachers got through the pandemic and remote learning is extraordinary to me. And I'm going to show you more of that as I go through. But one question I get a lot is, what happens if I opt my kid out of Mcas? And so I just want to direct your attention to Maple, and that the accountability information for Maple is slightly different than the other schools because it says low participation rate. So the low participation rate is a result of families opting their students out from Mcas. Maple still, hit a home run. So I'm not going to disparage those families. But what does happen is, not this year, but in other years where we have the year-to-year accountability percentiles, if we had consistent low participation, what that would do is it would bring the state into our district to give us technical assistance on how to increase that participation rate. We've had assistance from the state for years. They're a lovely group of people, but I do want the community to understand that when you opt your student out from Mcas, what happens then is that the state decides that they need more oversight of what we're doing in the district. Is that a bad thing? I could spend my time doing better things than being in meetings with state representatives, or not state representatives, but representatives from DESE. But it's not a terrible thing. So I wanted to just give that out there so that people understand where that opting out factors into the accountability formula. All right, So into the results. I'm going to show just quickly through the grades, these graphs. School committee members, you'll get this PowerPoint, so you'll be able to look at it a little bit more closely. But what I'd say in this case is to look at is the orange, green, and blue combined is students who are mostly performing on grade level. The red is students who are not quite meeting all of the standards that we would expect for that grade level. And this is an aggregate group of 3 to 8 in ELA, in English Language Arts. So we are performing very close to the state averages in 3 to 8 ELA. Same is true for ELA in grade 10. We perform very close to the state averages. That means that we kept on pace with most other schools throughout the pandemic, which is very good news. We didn't fall behind at all. We are still addressing the standards as expected, and as we're legally bound to do. Math, same story, very close to state averages, which is really impressive because we implemented a brand new math curriculum last year, and we're really seeing some of the benefits of implementing that new curriculum. Grade 10, again, very close to state averages. This is science for grades 5 and 8. Science is only tested in 5, 8, and 10. Here's 10th grade, and they test specifically in biology in 10th grade. So you may be noticing just not a lot of difference. I know that doesn't seem exciting, but because prior to the pandemic, we were performing below state averages, and that's why we had that state oversight, this feels really good to me. So we are improving. The way that we can see this is by our student growth percentiles. And this one just had me so excited that, well, I'll say I almost cried, but that sounds very dramatic. So, but I'll be dramatic. I'm really excited about our math growth in Center, Maple, Pepin, and Whitebrook. So student growth percentile, you're aiming for a 50. 50 means you've made 1 year of growth. This means that we made in the 21 to 22 school year, our students on average made more than a year of growth in mathematics over that year. Like they took the lost learning from the pandemic and they ran with it. And they taught like their hair was on fire for the year. And we have just really incredible student growth percentiles. I'm so excited about this data. And this was the first year of our implementation of a new math curriculum, K to 12. So this is impressive. I know that sometimes it just looks like numbers on the page, but this is really impressive. This means that teachers were putting in the work to see where their students were, where those gaps may have been from the pandemic, and then they were teaching to where their students were assessed. And that's exactly this beautiful relationship that we want our teachers to have with their students, with the student outcomes, and with how the students grow over time. Because we don't want to see just one test score. We want to see the growth of students over time. And this is showing us that they are making more than a year's worth of progress at a time. And that's incredible. So many kudos to our teachers. They are truly extraordinary people. Okay, so what are we going to do this year? We know we've got all this great stuff happening.
Julianne, you just froze.
I proposed a goal, which I'm going to tell you. Oh, uh-oh.
We're good now.
Oh, I'm sorry. Okay. So what do we do with the data next? And what we have decided to do is seen to us in Easthampton. And the A in the ABCDs, remember, is academics. And in academics, we want to make sure that the programming that we're offering to students is equitable for all student groups. So as you can see, I've got that circle around the average scaled score. The next question we're asking ourselves is, why are the students with disabilities, the EL and EL is English learners and former English learners, why are their average scaled scores disproportionately lower than the average scaled scores of our all student group, which is right at the bottom, the 492. And you can look at the student growth percentiles that are right next to it, that starts with 52, 52. Why are our students with disabilities and our English learners and our former English learners, why is their student growth percentile lower than the 58 of all students? So this is the kind of work that now we do. So I give this Mcas presentation to school committee. Yay, we're moving in the right direction. Students' growth is really impressive. But what now? Now is where we dig in and we say, okay, so what resources do we need to reallocate to, for example, our students with disabilities or our English learners in order to ensure that what they are getting is equitable to the all students subgroup or all students group. So that's the next phase of our data inquiry. The proposed goal for this year is by participating in classroom observations and data analysis, we will engage in an inquiry cycle that identifies disparities in the equitable distribution of student achievement outcomes in mathematics, I'll explain that in a second, across lines of race, ethnicity, disability, and economic status. So we want to know, why are there students in subgroups performing lower than our all students average? And that's that equitable distribution. The reason we chose mathematics is because we're in the second year of a new curriculum implementation. So this is a good time to look at how is our implementation going and where do we need to reallocate our resources, in this case, in mathematics, to make sure that we have that equitable distribution of student achievement outcomes. So that's how we are moving these data into actions for our school district to make the programming across the board stronger, more inclusive, more equitable. And that's how I combine my curriculum and my equity hats. See, it all works. So that's what I've got for you today. That was our aggregate data, and then a little dive into disaggregating the data to look at the equity gaps and be able to address those issues in our district.
Does anybody have any questions? Questions? Anybody?
I have a question.
I'm going to stop the share so I can see you. There we go. Yes.
I was just wondering if you could go back to the question of what happens when kids opt out. It sounds like the district steps in, but I guess I'm wondering, is there a concrete impact on the district other than extra oversight or people creeping over your shoulder? Because I think there's a lot of mystery there, both in terms of like what parents know or don't know, and it's very hard to get concrete information in the state because they obviously want you to take the test. But yeah, curious what you know about that.
Sure. So in our smaller elementary schools, the opt-outs were more significant. So we have to reach a 95% participation rate in order to not have that state oversight. When you only have 64 kids testing, that's a significant amount if one or two families opt out. At Mountain View, I don't think we're going to have that big of an impact if we have a few families opt out. If we have so many families opt out that we do fall below that participation rate, it's my time, it's Dr. LeClaire's time, it's the principal's time that we are then focused on meeting the state's requirements. So it's report writing, it's I don't even know. I mean, it's a lot of writing plans to address what the data say. They want us to be really inclusive of family engagement and making sure that families know the importance of MCAS. The importance is that eventually your student will have to take the competency determination, and the state absolutely believes that the more sort of practice they get understanding the test, and research bears out that if you put a test in front of a student that they've never seen before, they're not going to do as well as a student that has seen that test before, is used to testing circumstances. At the bottom line, though, the parents who tend to opt out are parents of students who are going to probably pass that comparability. I'm sorry, I've gotten all my keywords mixed up. Competency determination anyway. So we don't actually see a lot of students who opt out of the MCAS and then don't pass the competency determination in 10th grade. We don't really see that. But we do, have some like lovely meetings with people who visit us from the state, and we write reports for them. Yes.
Yeah. So for sure, like respecting the fact that you guys got a lot going on and you don't want more to do. I guess I hear these like real scary stories about how like the city will lose funding from the state, or like, like true.
That would be if a lot of parents opted out. I mean, you'd have to have like right now. So Maple was tagged because they have to hit 95% participation. And I think that they were at 94% participation. If we suddenly had a huge opt-out movement in Easthampton, it wouldn't be good. We would lose funding. That would not be a great situation. But for the students who need to opt out because of anxiety or, I don't know, like there are good reasons that some parents need to opt out of testing that I don't disagree with. But I think overall, I need to have some information about how we are systemically offering an equitable program to our students, right? The state needs that information. Dr. LeClaire needs that information.
Right.
If a small percentage of our students are opting out because it's just not a great environment to have their student test in,
I think
it's not going to do a lot.
I hear it. But I think one of my concerns is just that, and there's nothing we can do about this. This is the state's sort of rule. I get it. But MCAS itself is not an equitable test. It measures two things, math and English, right? That's about it. So like in terms of what we value as a community, I think we value more than just like math and English scores. And I think you're doing an amazing job actually, like breaking it down and actually breaking it into more ways to evaluate the way students in our district are doing. But this test is is really problematic, and there are plenty of people who have talked about how it has a racist kind of component where the people in the richest districts are going to do better than the people in the poorest districts. And I don't know where we fall in that ranking system.
I don't care.
Maybe it's new.
And I don't want anyone in Easthampton to care either.
Right. I mean, it's a question why anyone in Easthampton should take it. I know that there's reasons there's reasons for taking it for sure.
Yeah.
But I just want to, like, I hear a lot of parents kind of talk about like, well, I don't know, maybe I should, maybe I shouldn't. And they want to like protect the district, which is fantastic. But there's these kids who have like anxiety or they're worried about it. I guess I just like, I don't know. I prefer like respecting the kids' needs than forcing them to take a test that actually isn't necessarily going to help them learn.
Yeah. So I would say MCAS is not for students. It's for the adults. It's to know how we are doing, right? And yes, we need to know how we're doing. We don't have another tool that can give us quite like this disaggregated data to look at those equity gaps than MCAS, right? Like we wouldn't be able to, as a district, fund something that could take that really big picture and look at how are these students doing compared to these students compared to these students. So right. I would be at a little bit of a loss with how I allocate funding for curriculum programming, for intervention programming, for looking at that equity data. I would be at a loss without MCAS as a point in my data. So that's why I like it.
Sure.
But I would say, if we develop sort of like a team approach to this and we're like, okay, we do not in Easthampton teach to the test. Mm-hmm. We use the Massachusetts frameworks as our guide to teaching, right? And if you read the standards, I really want to separate standards and assessment, because if you read the standards, I don't think you're going to find anything in there that you're like, oh, I really don't want my student to learn that. Although now that I've said that and considering public speak, maybe that's true. Sorry. But I do think that the standards are really strong in Massachusetts, and we've seen that bear out nationally. The assessment is for the adults. It's not for the students. So the small number of students who are going to have testing anxiety over taking Mcas, yeah, that's not going to affect our data. I don't want parents of anxious students thinking that they're going to like destroy our district if their student doesn't take the test. I think everyone trying their best and taking these couple of days out of the school year to do this benchmarking is important. Yes, because I think it's how we know how Easthampton is doing in comparison to the rest of the state. I'm going to end my sentence there, even though I went up at the end.
Well, I don't want to carry this on and on, but like STAR testing is another one they take, right? Is that it? Yeah. And then is there another one too that they do like multiple times a year? I want to say it's like a MAP test or something. Like I thought there was a second test.
We don't do MAP testing. We only do STAR, and the STAR we take for identification. So STAR does not test the same things that Mcas tests.
Okay.
STAR drills down, STAR, and then the one for math that we're using is called Forefront. So STAR is for literacy, Forefront is for math. And those are just in the elementary schools. And the reason we use those, this is going to get really technical, and I just apologize. I know it's 7 o'clock. When we are identifying students for intervention services, and intervention services does not mean that the student is necessarily academically struggling. It means there's a foundational skill that we've identified that student needs a little extra boost in. That's what STAR and Forefront are giving us, is information about students at this like micro standard foundational skill level. Mcas isn't going to give us that. It's a big umbrella of data that shows us across, right, gives us the trends and patterns across student subgroups, our subjects, ELA, math, science. It's going to give us that high level data. But we do that more granular data assessment in STAR and in Forefront so that teachers can actually differentiate their lessons to the students in front of them. Mcas doesn't give you that information. So it's two really separate data pools. STAR and Forefront are actually for students. That's for meeting student needs. Mcas is for looking at the big picture across the district and saying, are we equitable, right? Are we giving an equitable program? And I agree with you. Mcas itself is not a great assessment of equity. 100%. We go back to the origins. Oh my gosh, I could have you here all night.
Yeah.
If we go back to the origins of standardized testing, like no one's going to like what they hear, right?
Right.
It's not a great story. So that's why we don't use that data for teacher evaluation, student evaluation, identification of students for services, or anything like that. We use it for programming and trends at a really high level.
Makes sense. I mean, and we can end it, but it's just that thing about using an inequitable test to find out if we have inequities.
Yeah,
it's like hard to wrap my head around, you know.
I mean, and maybe someday I work for DESE and we figure that all out.
We'll keep talking about it.
Maybe. Thanks, Ben.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for everything, by the way. Yeah, I know you have a lot going on. Appreciate it.
Megan?
Yeah, I just wanted to follow up. First of all, thank you so much for this presentation. I felt like I really understood how this connects to the larger ABCDs. I really would love for you to come back and talk about the BCDs. I think putting it in the framework of what we're doing is so important. I'm really grateful. I just want to pick up on one thing that Ben was saying. I don't know if there's like anything that can be done. I think I'm so grateful for all of your direct sort of answers to like, why do we have to do it? And what do we use it for? Like all of that. And if I can circle back to this, like, you know, the ways that it doesn't harm us necessarily because we have such a great district and a great person in charge of our curriculum that's not using it to penalize or, you know, but if it is it causing harm in other districts? Could it, are we contributing to that system? Is there anything that we can do to address that? I think that is what I hear from parents is like, if this is an inequitable test,
Right.
yes, I'm worried about my kids in my district, but I'm also worried about like, what does this mean for the district that ranked lower or
yeah,
I don't know, anything that can be done about that?
That's a great question. I mean, I have a lot of questions about that, especially given that before the pandemic, when Center went into turnaround, our worlds were a little bit, turned on their heads. So I agree that it can be an inequitable assessment of maybe something that's happening in a district that has nothing to do with Mcas. And so I think I might have to think about that for a minute, Megan, because I look at Holyoke, right? So Holyoke's the obvious comparison here. And I have a lot of big feelings that I probably, don't need to share publicly about what's going on in Holyoke. So what's our role in that? My role is to make sure that teachers know that what we care about is individual students. And if we see a trend in our data that shows something like, 90% of our students are doing really well, but 10% of our students aren't, but they all happen to be demographically similar, that's information I want. So I don't have currently a different tool to find out that information. If I could figure one out, I would use it, right? But that's the information that I get from Mcas and that our leadership team, all of the school administrators get from Mcas that currently feels like it's irreplaceable with another data set. Is there something school committee can do to work with that issue? Honestly, I don't know, but it's at a state policy level for sure. Yeah.
Lori?
I just wanted to quickly address that. Megan, I'm not sure if you realize, but before you came on to school committee, we drafted and signed at least 2 or 3 letters since I've been here. So we did try to do something to stop this on a systemic level, even though we have such confidence in what Julianne is doing at a district level. So if that's something, that you are passionate about and want to take on, you can draft another letter. I sense that Ben feels the same way, and I'm sure we'll all support you, but that's what we've done to try to fight against this at a state level.
And I appreciate that. I really have to say, I really appreciate the support at the local level and then the action at the state level. That feels really affirming to me. And I think it does to our teachers as well, who, again, I don't want to speak for them, but I think we're all just trying to do the best we can, given the resources that we have and the mandates from the state.
And I think we're going to see perhaps another surge of letters and, people reaching out and committees reaching out to the state to try to change some of their accountability measures and how they use it for competency. But as much as I don't like Mcas, and I feel as a teacher that it's a pressure, I will say there is some information that we as districts, my school teachers, look at to say, where should we be adjusting? So we do look at that information so that we can adjust our kids' learning. And sometimes you get a surprise and you don't realize that your students are, say, weaker in paragraph writing. And you think, wow, we're all set with that. And you realize, wow, maybe as a district, we should all go back to reinforcing that. So there is some valuable information that comes from looking at that data, and schools do that. They sit down together and they look at where there are weaknesses. So,
take away that high stakes part of it, and everybody relaxes.
I would, and in years past, when we did, I'm talking way back when we did standardized testing, it wasn't that high stress. Students' diplomas did not weigh on how they did. And that is the huge change that so far, whatever committees and people have tried to change with DESE, we haven't been successful at that. And I'm not sure, where that's going to go. Allison?
Well, first, I just wanted to say thank you to Julianne for that presentation. It was great to hear. As a former curriculum director, I know the depth of the work that she's involved in, so I really appreciate it. Secondly, I just wanted to say that, I sit on the executive board of the State Superintendents Association, and we met last week, and one of the priorities for the executive committee is they're forming a subgroup to write a position paper on the Mcas, just to take a look at it from the perspective of it's been the test of choice for many years in the state of Massachusetts, but that doesn't mean it is the be-all, end-all of an assessment tool. There are other forms of assessment that we should be reviewing. And, this was a tool that was developed 25, 30 years ago. I don't know. I was still teaching in the classroom when Mcas came on board, so it was quite a while ago. And its formatting has not really changed, but a lot has changed in the world of academia. So it is really kind of ripe for us to have a fresh set of eyes kind of look at the work that's being done. And are there other recommendations that we can make as a Superintendents Association? Whether they carry weight or not, I don't know, but we usually have the ear of the commissioner, and we need something, because every state needs to have some form of assessment for, kind of attached to federal dollars, so that we do need to do something, but it begs the question whether there are other options for us to explore. So thank you, Julianne.
Thank you. And now, Dr. LeClaire, it's turning
Sure.
to you for updates.
So I'm going to kind of build a little bit on some of the work that Julianne started discussing. So Julianne spoke briefly at the beginning of her presentation about some work that she and I are involved in, and it's through the Mass Association of School Superintendents. And that group has been committed to equity work for the last several years, and it's been growing. And one of the things that they're doing this year is they're offering a course called, it's a Foundations Learning Series around Ready Work, which stands for Racial Equity, Diversity, and Inclusion. So Julianne Levin and I applied to be a part of the course that's being offered this year, and we were accepted into the program. So Julianne and I, along with 50 other districts across the state, are participating in a year-long course taught by Dr. Amante Jackson and Dr. Titel, both from Harvard Graduate School. They're graduates of Harvard Graduate School. Dr. Titel, Dr. Titel, I believe, teaches there still, and Dr. Amante Jackson is an activist and a racial equity strategist that works throughout the nation. And so we had our first session last week, and we were really invigorated by this work. And it really feeds into the strategic plan that we have developed and our equity work that we've been involved in here at the district level for the last several years. It's really helping us to build and apply a shared framework for addressing the work that we do through the lens of cultural change and nurturing a sense of belonging for all staff, students, and families. So it's really helping us try to navigate the difficult political times that we're in and build a culture of belonging, equity, diversity, and inclusion within our community and within our school district. So it's a year-long project. We'll be taking courses in person. We take them in person. We're working with multiple other districts, and it's really nice to engage in work with other communities that are like-minded, because one thing that we have discovered through our equity work, particularly at the superintendent's level, is that many districts everybody's at a different place. And we can't all have the same discussions necessarily, because I can tell you there are many communities, even in Western Mass, that have not even begun using the word equity and having discussions around equity with their school district, with their community. It's just not even on their radar. So they're in a completely different place, and I want to appreciate and respect that. But we're really diving into this work as we have been for the last several years. And so I want to read to you kind of what the overall goal is. And it's that every student will have the right to know that they belong in our schools and will have an equitable opportunity to excel and thrive in life. The will and the skill we hone to become more effective anti-racist leaders will be the foundation for each of us to address our district's other important issues of equity, diversity, and inclusion. Those arising from differences in gender, ability, sexual orientation, language, and gender identification. So the Ready work is not only about Julianne and I. There are a series of other things that the Association of Superintendents is providing. And so they're doing something called Ready Wednesday webinars. They're doing those once a month, and I've shared that with our entire leadership team, so that our district, our building leaders that often feel that they can't leave the school building because they need to be on site, they'll have the opportunity to pop into these webinars. They're an hour and a half long. They're offered on Wednesdays, and they can engage with colleagues across the state in some of the challenging topics that will be provided throughout the year. So we have a lot of administrators at the building level that are interested in doing that. Julianne and I are taking the course this year. There's also the Superintendent's Association has established a BIPOC district leader program, and that's off the ground. They have an urban leadership team series. I'm just letting you know that these are some of the other things. And they're also going to be putting out a series of communications that the executive committee will develop around strengthening strategic communications and public engagement. I bring this up because it's such important work, and it will be a primary discussion point at the joint superintendent and school committee conference in November that will be happening for 3 days. The Ready work is being embraced by school committees across the state and by the MASC. And so we're really partnering on a lot of presentations during that 3-day conference. So that will be really exciting. And so what Julianne talked to you a little bit about on one of her slides tonight were the 4 pillars that we started to really dive into. And Julianne talked about academics, but the others were belonging, commitment to dismantling racism, and diversity. Much of the work we do is in service to those 4 pillars. And that's something that we've been doing, but we haven't really labeled it as these 4 pillars. So that's really helping to codify our work for us. And this course is helping us see that many of the things that we've been doing in the district, kind of where they fit into the big picture, but it's also conversely helping us see areas in which we still need to do more, and we need to really strengthen what we're doing. Julianne briefly mentioned the goal that she has for our district leadership team, because, you know, I evaluate our district administrators. And so she presented that goal to you. Julianne and I feel that it is imperative for us to model our expectations for not only our building leaders, but also for the teachers in our district. So Julianne and I are committing to pushing into classrooms this year and doing brief observations across the district, and we'll be modeling that for everyone. And with the idea of looking for opportunities where we can examine equity in academics and differentiation across grades and across classrooms. That's what we'll be looking for. So we hope to start that in the coming weeks and work with our leadership team around that. And, you know, I had some interesting takeaways from our first session, and I wanted to share with you. One of the most profound things that I heard is from Dr. Amonte Jackson, and she said, equity is the table, and everything else is what gets set on that table. And that really was like, wow, that's a great way to frame our equity work. It is everything, and everything else kind of goes on top of that. And the other thing that was a major takeaway for myself, and I won't speak for Julianne, is that they said to us, equity work done right takes a minimum of 6 to 10 years of sustained work before you truly see a change. And so we're in about our 5th year of this equity work, about our 4th year working with the younger grades. So we're deep into this work, but we are by no means finished. We'll never be finished with this work. Equity work continues. And so that's, you know, some of what I wanted to share with you tonight about Julian and I kind of feeling reinvigorated by the opportunity that we've been given to participate in this course and kind of tie a lot of this work together with the things that we're doing in the district. Laurie?
I truly appreciate that update, Dr. LeClaire. I was just wondering, did anyone say they would go to that conference?
I'm going.
Yes, I know you reached out to us. I was just wondering because, you know, I know with public meeting laws, I didn't respond and ask everybody. I was waiting to see.
No, I'm going by myself. I do know that you can still register for the conference if you are able to go. And for those, for Megan, Ben, you know, if you haven't been to the conference, it's an amazing conference. There are just tons of really great presentations, and you will definitely get invigorated by that. I do sit on the executive board for the Superintendents Association, so I needed to be there, so I will be going to that.
And I highly recommend it as well. Both Maren and I went pre-pandemic, and we had a phenomenal experience. I think we were both there all 3 days, right, Maren?
Yeah.
We definitely, yes. And if nobody else can go, like I'll try. It's just hard being a teacher. We're all teachers, and you guys have young children as well. So that even makes it more challenging, but I do feel that we should have representation from the school committee. So even if I could just break away one day, I could maybe go Friday. So I'll try.
And I think Friday is the biggest ready work day. I think there's a whole schedule of many, many workshops.
Can you go like one day? Is that it? You don't have to sign up for the whole thing?
You don't have to sign up for the whole thing.
Okay, that's good to know. I didn't know.
Mm-hmm. So maybe I'll try to do that. Okay, just wanted to bring it up. But once again, thank you. And I also appreciate the work you're doing as a leader with all of this, Dr. LeClaire. So you represent our district well. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Dr. LeClaire, is that it for your section right now?
It is, but well, the only other thing I was going to share is that I was asked at the last school committee meeting to provide COVID numbers. So I do want to share with you last week's COVID numbers. I asked for them on Fridays. And so last week at Mountain View, the information that we received, so I want to say that, the information that we received, because we do not test in school, we had 5 students and 1 staff member out with COVID. And at the high school, we had 2 students and 1 staff member out with COVID. So that's the information reported to me by our nurses.
Thank you. All right. Okay, so now we have our Director of Business Service updates.
Good evening, everyone. I don't know if you want to take the revote on the budget before I give my business office report, or if you want me to do that and then you take the vote.
No, I think we should do the vote first. It would be nice to, just for the public, explain why we're doing the revote and how that benefits the city.
Okay.
It could be you or Allison.
Either or. I want me to do it. All right. So as the public is aware, the budget that the school committee had passed last March was not the budget that the city council ended up passing when it came time to do that. The budget that was submitted to the city council for vote was $561,000 short of what the school committee had passed. So, just really as a procedural measure, having the school committee revote the budget to mirror what the city council passed was important to do. Dr. LeClaire and I discussed this with the field rep from MASC. I reached out to other business managers in the state via the listserv, and pretty much heard the same advice all around. Was I can't enter a budget into the accounting software that doesn't mirror the appropriation that was actually given to us. And in order to make up for the $561,000 that was cut, I had to, cut money off of some of the account lines, and it's important procedurally to take that vote to actually approve what's in the accounting software, so that everything, is really apples to apples, as was stated at the last meeting.
Great. Any other questions before we? All right. So we have before us a motion to revote the budget in the amount of $17,889,577.60 to reflect the city council approved budget.
I second that.
All right. Do we have any discussion? Okay, Megan.
Megan Harvey, yes.
Maren.
Aaron Goldstein, yes.
Lori.
Lori Garcia, yes.
Ben.
Ben Hersey, yes.
Mayor.
Mayor LaChapelle, abstain.
Shannon.
Shannon Dunham, yes.
And Cynthia Kwasinski, yes. All right. Back to you, sir.
All right, I'll quickly go through my business office update here for the October meeting. It's certainly going to be hard to follow up what Julianne and Dr. LeClaire did, and them sharing all the work the district is currently engaging in. I don't believe my business office report is going to live up to that, but I'll do my best. The end of the year financial report has been completed and submitted to the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education. I submitted the report on time on September 30th. And for all of Desi's advocacy that report is handed in on time, it will not earn me any extra points when it comes time for the audit. The report does have to be independently audited by an outside accounting firm. I've already reached out to the auditor to inform her that, whenever she is ready to come, she can. I made sure I did so right away. Typically, the audit has to take place by March 31st per state law. However, the last couple of years, it was, I believe, extended to like June 30th because of the pandemic. I don't know that they're going to extend the deadline this year, but even if they do, just philosophically, I think the earlier the better. Because, when an auditor comes in and reads your report, before they ever make their draft report and, their final report of any findings or things that need to be amended, they'll talk to you. We'll sit down, we'll have a good hour-long conversation. If there's any questions, sometimes they request a document or two, depending. And, it's much easier to be able to answer those things when, 6 months haven't passed. Because after you hand in this report, frankly, you don't think about it that much until it comes time for the audit. I mean, you get, it's going to be budget season before we know it. And then all of a sudden the audit comes and it's like your brain's elsewhere. So, I do hope that she comes out relatively soon. Once that's done, the report may need to be amended, depending on if there are any findings, and then the final audit report must be given to the city council. I can say last year in my district, the report didn't get audited until the end of May. So it was difficult sort of to, backtrack and answer all of the questions that she had. Luckily, it's the same auditor. We use the same firm as my prior district. So, I know her. I actually called her a couple of times during the process to ask her a couple of questions about things. So in any event, that'll be the next step for that. The second item on my report for this month is more of a heads up than anything. So the Operational Services Division, which is a state government organization, they are responsible for setting rates for state-approved private special education school tuitions. And about little over a week ago, they released a memo which provided an estimated inflation rate for tuitions for next year. They have to do that. They have to give good faith estimates, even though they might not be completely final numbers, but by October, they do have to provide that. And their estimated rate of inflation for next year is 14%, which is far higher than what is typically seen. Somebody on our listserv had compiled a list of the inflation rates for previous years, going back all the way to FY11. And, typically you see 2.1%, 1.85, I think one year was 3 was the highest I saw. And then all of a sudden you get 14, which, as you can imagine, was very shocking to folks who received this. This is due in part to the inflation that we're seeing across the economy. Of course, everything costs more than it used to, but also due to something called a workforce stability factor, which basically, I could explain it in greater detail if people would like me to do so, but it's really a measure of attempting to keep your workforce in place. As you can imagine, private special education schools experienced staffing shortages and challenges in that department, just like most other places have. And most of these places used their ESSER money. Private schools got their own version of ESSER money. Most of them use that to do things like hiring bonuses, retention bonuses, increase salaries, anything they could do to keep their staff on board, working in schools who serve students with some of the highest needs across the entire Commonwealth. And, a lot of us forget that a lot of these schools remained open during the darkest days of the pandemic, early on, serving those students. So their staffs, have certainly, there's been a lot of turnover. So they used a lot of their ESSER money to increase, staff salaries, and their ESSER money runs out at the end of this year. So, that extra percent of inflation due to the quote workforce stability factor is going to be that they have to charge higher rates in order to be able to pay their staff so that they have people to meet the needs of the students who attend these schools. Is there anything we can do about this right now? No. And again, the number may change slightly between now and when the rates are actually set, but I did want to give the committee a heads up as early as possible, because this, will likely have a profound impact on school districts who will need to rely on their municipalities for more support. I don't know that the state is planning on offering any support. I certainly don't want to speak for them. There hasn't been any talk of it yet, but this is something that every district is going to be concerned about. So there will likely be pressure on the state to do so. So in any event, I did just want to give you all a heads up that is coming down the pipeline when it comes time for budget season for next year.
Mayor, you had a question. You're on mute.
I do. Thank you, Nick. So my question actually, I'm a little, all right. So the 14%, the stability factor, for fiscal year 24, is there any mitigating offset for that year of student opportunity?
You mean will we get additional funding via the Student Opportunity Act?
Like, does the percent of increase go up as far as what is it now? 4 times foundation, something, and 4 times foundation, and it's like 75%, or they change this percent every year. It's maddening.
Yeah, they haven't said anything yet, but I would assume that there would be pressure applied in a lot of different directions here. At some point, certainly the committee will want a number from me in terms of what kind of increase that will be looking like. Yeah. I can't give you that now just yet because, I certainly don't want to give a number in a public meeting when I haven't done all my homework. But, I also would have to meet with Sarah Mochak and, see if we have any students graduating this year, because things change from year to year. Sometimes 3 students graduates and your out of district tuition budget goes down, from year to year. So as the time gets closer, we will certainly work together to get that. But 14% is a lot compared to the normal, as I said, about 2% that we're used to.
I think so. Claire? I was just going to say to the mayor's point, and I think she brings up a good point, from the perspective that when we have the Student Opportunity Act began, it was put in place so that we would get an incremental increase for a period of several years, because the state couldn't handle the increase from A to Z in 1 year's time. And so it begs the question why, this 14% increase could maybe not be phased in over a period of years so that school districts can absorb it rather than having it be such a high percentage that it will cripple many school districts. This will absolutely cripple, particularly very small school districts, like very rural school districts. This will be a crippling percentage increase. And it will be, I can tell you anecdotally, Mayor, that this number will be far higher than the $40,000 we received as our Student Opportunity Act allocation this year.
So, it's certainly a conversation to pick up again. It's OSD that decides this. It's not DESE, and OSD is a bureaucratic plate of spaghetti. I just think that there was a conversation to be had. MMA is feeling that there will be money. I don't know if it's necessarily ESSER or what they're going to call it, that will help school districts offset this jump. Again, as Nick was saying, who knows what's going to happen, but I would hope OSD had a conversation with ANF and DESE about how to mitigate the inflationary increase.
I would think too, maybe in terms of circuit breaker reimbursement, perhaps that will increase, to help. But the problem is you're not going to see that till the year after because it's reimbursement.
Right. Yeah.
So in any event, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, but I wanted to give the committee the heads up on this as early as possible. Does anyone have any other questions about that, or shall I move on to my personnel report?
I think we're good.
Okay, the personnel report for September. Not a lot here, certainly compared to last month, which included the entire summer. We had one new hire, a night custodian at Mountain View. We had 3 separations, and we had 6 transfers, although 3 of them had occurred really before the school year started. They were just omitted from the last month's report, so I included them here. Our current vacancies, we just have 2 paraeducators, one at each of the schools, and a part-time special ed administrative assistant, here in central office. So we really don't have a lot of vacancies. There was a couple of people started since October started, which you'll see them on next month's report, but we're almost completely fully staffed, which is, and I know Dr. Leclerc mentioned this last month, really good compared to the places a lot of districts are in. So obviously I haven't been here too long, but I think that really, speaks to the culture and climate of the city and the school district. So we're in a great place there.
If I can just pick up on that, because I'm really proud of that. The high school is fully staffed, professional staff-wise. We have 1 paraeducator opening in that building, but fully staffed for all teaching staff. The Mountain View School, we just hired for a teacher opening that we had, the STEAM teacher, and that person's being onboarded now. And we have 1 para opening in that building, and we'll have be fully staffed with all educators. I don't know another district in Western Mass. I don't even know another district that's fully staffed right now with professional staff. So I really am tooting our horn. We're really, really proud of that. And I think it really speaks to, I think people want to come and work in new schools. They're brand new schools. They're state of the art. It's exciting to be walking into a brand new classroom that's yours. And so I think that's really helped us. So thank you.
Quick question. And I don't know if it's the timing. Though I think it was the last meeting that there was an offer being made to the IT director. Is that person on board?
He started today.
Okay.
He started today. Yes, thank you for reminding me. He did. He's on boarded today. Yep.
Yeah, he'll be on the November report.
Okay, great. Excellent. Okay, any other questions? All right. So, Maren, do you want to give a finance subcommittee update?
Yeah, so the finance subcommittee will be meeting later this month to discuss sort of closing out of 2022 financial year. So we'll be scheduling that either the end of this week, end of this month, or early November. I'll reach out to you, Nick, to sort of finalize the dates for that. And then the other thing that we did meet with our joint city council group, finance subcommittee. And so we attended that meeting and reviewed with them sort of our process to go forward and our partnership and sort of bringing everybody up to a sort of higher level of understanding of how our school budget works within the city. And the percentage that it takes on in the city. And so making sure our city council members understand that to a much deeper level than they have in the past. So we're working with them. We have already provided them all of the information that they've requested to have in review. And we are looking to have our second meeting with them in early November. And that will be put out and noticed once we finalize the date on that as well. So those are the 2 things that are happening on the finance side of things.
I believe we did finalize that date for November 9th at 6?
Well, we need to get verification from them before I make a public announcement or schedule it. So that is tentatively, I think, I was thinking it was the 7th off the top of my head, but I could be wrong. So I'll just real quickly look at that Wednesday. Nope, you're right. Wednesday is the 9th. So yeah, that is probably the date that we'll be doing our next joint meeting, but we will publicly announce that once we're ready to go with it.
Yep. And yeah, we one of the things we did decide as a team is to meet every other month so that there's more early communication before the budget season. So I think that was a nice measure.
Well, we're going to meet quarterly, but we're meeting a little bit faster than that this time, just to sort of help prep everybody for the budgets that are coming up this winter. So, but yeah, otherwise it's a quarterly meeting, and we're all working together to get out the other sort of audit reviews and everything like that to be able to move forward and support our budget to a full level that we need it.
So any other subcommittee reports or updates?
I just wanted to mention that I was given a request to put in a meeting for the policy subcommittee. I'm working on that right now. I'm working on doing like submitting sorry, I'm having a minute. Trying to get all of the stuff put together for a like just a mock meeting, like for the agenda. I'm sorry, that's the word I'm trying to work for. So yeah, I will get that out to you guys as soon as I can, probably next week. And I will try to get that scheduled and on everybody's radar. Okay. Thank you.
Sounds good. Thank you. Lori?
Thank you so much, Shannon. I look forward to meeting with you on policy again. I was just checking the weather and I'm a bit concerned because my announcement may change and I may need input from all of you. So I was going to be extremely excited to announce our walk, bike, and roll event for short on Thursday. We did have a rain event on Friday in case of rain, but Friday was showing more rain and Thursday wasn't showing rain till later in the day. So first, I'd like to really thank, we have now a committee working on this, which really is wonderful because everyone's taking part. And Jean Libby, she got out a great poster. I'm sure you all saw it's on social media. And Jeff Bagg, our city planner, has been highly involved. Scott Kavanaugh, who's one of our teachers, and he's on the Manhattan Rail Trail. We're all working on this. So the last we had touched base, we saw that it was showers, possible showers late Thursday, but I just checked and I'm so scared because now it says rain in the morning. So it changed in a couple hours, the weather report. We all know that could change again, but I need your input because I just put out an emergency email to them, but I'm sure they're not even going to see it. And they're my planning committee. So let's decide now what to do.
The weather does not look that bad in the morning still. I think Friday, definitely still looks bad. I think you should still go forward with Thursday morning, especially because by the time the school starts, it's an early morning thing. I wouldn't change it. Go for it.
Oh, thank you, Maren. I needed that. So I had already checked with Dr. Pasquini Torchia to see if it did begin to rain early before the kids got out and they had their bikes. We already have a place to store them. I believe it's called the community room, right? They could be brought inside and then the kids could either go by bus or with their parents. So that wouldn't be an issue. And the walkers, it wouldn't be an issue. And I did mention that I was so excited to see this mother riding a bike last week in the rain. It was raining quite heavily at one point with her two children, and they had their rain gear on, and they were all riding their bikes home from school, and they looked super happy. So if it rains a little, that's okay, right? We can do this. Yes?
I agree.
Dr. Leclerc, you agree? All right, so we're going to go for this Thursday. Okay, so no extra rain date. We'll do that. let me just tell you the times, and there is a change. So I hope people are listening and paying attention to the wonderful poster that Jean did. So 7:15 is going to be our start time for the grades 6 through 8. And that's at the normal place, the public safety complex. And Scott Kavanaugh, who always commutes with his kids, like he really knows his stuff, he was saying it was going to be too hard for the K through 5 to do that distance. And I admire Scott and I listened to him. So we have changed the starting point for the K through 5 to be the Stone House. Now that's the Stone House that is on the corner of Taft and Daly Field. So near the Williston Fields and then the old Easthampton High School field, you know, does everyone thumbs up if you know when I say that, where that is, okay? So that's gonna be the start at 7:45 for the K through 5. And we have 2 different things going on for them. It's really exciting to promote walking, biking, rolling. So if kids wanna walk, we're going to lead them through a great trail that I had never even been on from the Stone House. And it only takes like 5 minutes. It's wonderful. And it's marked right through Nonotuck. And it goes right to the back of Mountain View. So that's a phenomenal way to get to school. And that's what we want to promote, this healthy way of arriving to school that doesn't involve cars and buses. And then if kids want to ride their bikes, we're going to have another group that's going to go from that Stone House, so down Taft and up Park Street. And that's going to highlight where the funding is going to go to expand that route from the Manhan. So it's very exciting, and it will be Thursday. There won't be rain, it will be shine. And if there's a little rain, we're still going to do it. So, and once again, I'd like to thank Tandem. So we will have we're having them cut into quarters so kids can just grab what they want with Philadelphia cream cheese packages that Tandem also donated so they can have a little bagel snack to be on their way. Does anyone have any questions?
No, I think it's great. I'm very excited.
Okay, thank you all.
All right. Okay, now we're almost done with this meeting. Do we have anything under other? Ben?
I would love to just put it out there that if we could, to the next meeting, have a discussion about a curriculum subcommittee, which we were talking about doing this week, but I would love to make it happen next time if we could. There's a whole bunch of things I could present. I could provide you with material in advance. We could.
You were gonna give us that information. You were gonna send that to me quite some time ago after our last meeting.
Oh yeah,
but I didn't receive any.
It's so true. I didn't send it. I'm happy to do that, and I'd love to talk to you about it, but. Just listening to the presentations tonight, thinking about some of the things Julianne was saying about an inquiry cycle, which I thought was really fascinating, and the question of measuring equity, which is something that I think Allison and Julianne, you guys are doing in your program. I think a committee would be a great place to have some real in-depth discussions about really understanding the ways in which we are or are not meeting those goals. I was thinking about last meeting, the mayor, you asked like, how do you know when you've met a goal? And I think that that's a question that could be really productive in that setting, amongst many other possibilities. But it would be great to talk about it more if we could. And I would love conversation.
So you were going to send me the information in this week, hopefully, in time for me to be able to read it and contact the Massachusetts Association of School Committees. That was our next step before I put it on the agenda. Okay. I just want to make sure, because we had planned that the last time and then I didn't receive that information. So
okay, so I think the question is like I was confused about that. Well, the way we were going to do it, I thought I was going to come to this meeting with information and show it to the committee. So you need information from me.
So remember, I'm not sure that what the way you're talking about structuring a meeting, a committee, I don't believe is part of our purview as school committee members. So what you were going to do is send me the information. Then I was going to contact Massachusetts Association of School Committees, get the information as to whether or not that was okay, and then we would put that on the agenda. So if you can do it in that order, then we can see what they say.
Happy to provide that, but I guess the question is, what exactly do you need?
Well,
are you looking for
you had information, you believed you had information that would show that this is something that school committees in Massachusetts are supposed to be doing and can be doing. And so I need that information so that when I call them, they have something to look at and to be referencing. Because right now, where we were talking last meeting is an advisory group is 100% easy for us to begin. But a separate school committee group looking at curriculum is a very different creature. And I don't believe, as I understand what we're supposed to be doing, I don't believe that's within our purview, but I'm more than willing to look at that information and then contact MASC.
So if I send you, for instance, like 20 different districts that do this with their kind of like set of stated goals, would that be the information?
Yeah, because I guess my feeling is we're really talking about advisory groups. And that's what we need to check out. And if you send me that information, I think we can check that out.
Okay. Well, I don't know about advisory groups, but I know about a lot of districts that do it as one of their subcommittees, like in the same vein as a policy.
Send me that information. And then, as I said, I'll contact MASC.
Okay. Sounds good.
All right. Okay. Any other piece, Megan?
Yes, I had two others. I want to give my PTO update, and then I also have a COVID-related question. And I'm not sure, Cindy, if it's better to, I know I briefly asked you about like if I should request for it to go on the agenda or if I should just ask Dr. LeClaire about the COVID question I have at this point, and I cannot remember what you told me.
I think that you just had a question, Dr. LeClaire, so it doesn't really have to be an agenda piece.
Great. So I was just wondering, I saw your email last week at this point with not really updated COVID policies, but just like reiterating our COVID policies. And one of them did catch my eye, and you probably are like really sick of hearing me ask about this, but I'm seeing if I could pull it up so I can see. So there's language in there that the district is following state recommendations for isolation after a positive COVID test result for students or staff members. And then another bullet point down a little later is that the guidance requires individuals to be absent for 5 days and then to mask except while eating on days 6 through 10. So, I'm going to ask about, I think people who, I know scientifically, days 6 through 10, those folks who are on days 6 through 10 and have tested positive should not be eating unmasked with other students or staff members. Are they still in a separate spot for that?
Well, I will be honest with you. We are at the high school. There's still the opportunity to eat outside, and we still have kids eating outside even now into October. And for many of those students, they ate outside most of the year last year, even in the winter. They just like going outside. So for anyone that wants to eat outside, but particularly students that are recovering from COVID, they're encouraged to eat outside in the fresh air. And that way those tables are spread out and et cetera. It's a little harder at the Mountain View School. We do have outside eating and students can access that. I'm not sure the younger ones are going to seek eating outside at the picnic tables on cold, chilly days. I think that will be weather dependent. And I will share with you, Megan, I understand medically what you're saying makes sense to me, but from a point of view of discrimination, it seems my administration has not wanted to isolate students and say, because of this, you have to be segregated and can only eat over here. It's been something that they're very uncomfortable doing. And I think their rationale around that, besides the obvious discrimination kind of view on it, is that we feel that we're at this point where if people want to be vaccinated, they're vaccinated, and children, adults. And so our nurses have not felt that they needed to really push this. And I ran those guidelines through the city health department. Bridget looked at those guidelines. We met about them over the summer, but then before I sent them out last week, Bridget looked at them and she didn't have any concerns about them. So we have not been pressuring, particularly at the younger grade students, to eat separately and be isolated from others.
I'm concerned about that. It's true that folks can choose whether or not to be vaccinated, but we know that's sort of like why masking wouldn't be required in general in the building, right? But when we know for fact that a person is still contagious, even folks who are vaccinated can get ill with a new infection from somebody on days 6 through 10 quite easily. To have a known contagious person, and if you click the state recommendations for isolation after a positive test, there's no caveat about taking your mask off while eating. It's just mask days 6 through 10. I find that really worrisome with these super contagious variants that we have. Our standard these days is very different than our standard from 2 years ago, and it's super contagious. And one contagious person eating in a lunchroom puts everybody in that lunchroom at risk.
But it's difficult, we don't really have a place. We don't have a separate lunchroom where we can push children into that area.
When we had met, I think it was 2 meetings ago, perhaps, we talked about this, and there was like a conference room or something that you had mentioned that was a place that students and staff could eat for days.
There's the nurse's office, but honestly, kids are in and out of that office all day long, and you can pick up whatever by being in that office if you were eating. There is a principal's conference room, but I can't guarantee that there's not an IEP meeting in there, or we're limited as to open places, and it's a place that would have to be supervised as well. So I don't have extra lunch staff. I cut lunch monitors this year, so I literally don't have extra bodies to supervise separate locations, which is an argument for why it's a little bit easier at the high school, because someone can be standing kind of in the doorway and watch the kids outside eating and watch the kids inside, the way that school building is set up. So it is a challenge.
So I have a couple comments, but Lori had her hand up, and then Maren.
It's so hard to even be still discussing this. And I have to say, once again, I am so thankful that we have Dr. Ward Harvey here to say what is on my mind. And as a teacher, I went back this year thinking, wow, I'm not going to be masked. I'm vaccinated. I'm boosted. And I unfortunately had COVID in June. So I was feeling safe. But I can tell you, the more I read the more I talk to people, the more I hear about people getting COVID more than once and long COVID symptoms. The articles I just read, there's the football player that just had atrial fibrillations. I'm again wearing a KF94 teaching, and I'm keeping my students away from me, and my windows are open. I tried to be normal, but we still are not normal. Now, what I'm hearing, I understand, and I totally sympathize, empathize with the problem of where to put students. I know how cafeterias are. I've been in enough schools as a teacher, but I also know that these type of questions have come up with allergies. I've seen how different districts have handled it, like so far end of the spectrums, different districts in this valley where I have taught, where there were peanut allergies, where there couldn't be any peanuts or any tree nuts in the whole school. I won't mention that district. So I moved to another district where I was told that anyone can bring any food because it's up to the parents to tell their kids to stay away. So I'm bringing that up because this seems to be a similar type of conversation in the cafeteria. What do you do to not make kids feel segregated? So I think we could work out a place, Dr. LeClaire, thinking about allergies, like saying, and the nurses would know who's coming back right after COVID, and just having a section maybe even in the cafeteria. It could be done, just like it's done for the nut-free areas until we get through this, or we can flip it around and people who have high-risk people at home, like maybe there'd be a safe zone. And then when I heard you say there are a lot of kids going into the nurse's office, I hope they're required, like in my district, as soon as they approach anywhere near the nurse's office, there are masks in the hall and they have to be masked, because I think that is a rule, right?
Yeah.
Yes. So I'm just like showing you all different sides of this, but I think that we do have to listen to what Megan's saying and be careful about people unmasking right when they come back, because I see my students coming right back, still very sick, and they're unmasked, and I'm keeping myself safe. But what about the little kids in the cafeteria?
Maren?
Yeah, I think that I don't need to reiterate what has already been said by Megan and Lori. I just think that it is a challenge, and our school district meets many challenges with solutions. And so I would just put it to you, Dr. LeClaire, to find a solution to this. And we do need to have a space that keeps our students allowed to come back to school, following the CDC rules that they can come back to space, but they need to have a space that they can be in that can make sure that the rest of our students, for the few known cases that we have right now, because most people don't have to report them, right? But for the few that we do know, we need to keep everybody else safe. If we know we have an active case coming back in, we need to figure out a solution to keep them safe and keep the rest of the students safe as well. So I think you can find a solution to this, and I just ask you to do that for us, please.
And I agree. One of the things you said is you don't want kids to feel bad because they're being asked to eat separately. When we see students coming back with the mask on for that 5 days, everybody basically knows. It's accepted, but it's also recognized. Oh, okay, you were out sick, now you're coming back, you're wearing a mask. Therefore, the kids assume that everybody's got COVID who's coming back after being sick with a mask. It doesn't make any sense to me. I agree with Megan, I agree with everybody, when you are on day 6 through 10, if you wore your mask all day to protect students and staff from spreading this virus, and then you sit next to students during lunch with no mask on, you have just undone all of the work in that half-hour lunch period that was going on all day. So I do think that we are capable. I agree with Maren. I think we're capable of coming up with creative solutions. I know that lots of schools are looking at different places to have students. And it's really, to me, not an equity issue. It's an acceptance issue, and it's a safety issue for everybody else. But I do think as we all come inside we have to be very careful. We don't want this to spread. We don't want more kids out. We don't want staff out. We want to be able to live with this. And that 4 days, day 6 through 10 or 5 days of wearing a mask during lunch is a tiny ask. Not wearing a mask, but those masked kids having a separate space is a tiny ask for keeping the building open. So I do think it's something, I appreciate Megan catching that. When I had read it, I did not catch the exception. And I think that it's something that needs to be looked at. And I don't agree that it's too much to ask of students.
I'll check with the leadership at the Mountain View and see what they are doing and if they can make some adjustments.
And I think, excuse me, my voice is still a little funny. I think outside is a perfectly fine option, right? If it's nice enough and the student or the staff member would rather go outside, no need to put them purposely in a conference room. But if it's cold or they just don't want to, or whatever, a separate place to eat, I think it doesn't have to be like perfection, but on days that we know somebody is contagious, let's just do what we can. Thank you. And thank you for the support. I appreciate it.
Yeah. Okay. Are we ready for our payroll?
No, now I have to give you a brief PTO update.
That's right.
So PTO is just really taking off just since I've been doing these updates during other, as our sort of agreed upon time for getting this information to my colleagues. The school committee or the PTO has grown. They have a brand new, I think it's very fancy website where you can get all of the information that you need super easy. It's Mountain View Easthampton PTO.org. Super easy to navigate to Mountain View Easthampton PTO.org. And they have all sorts of ways that you can volunteer. They've linked a Google form. They have a chat box where you can just ask a question and someone will get back to you. They have information about fundraising and the events that are going on, just making it so much, many ways for parents to stay involved. So the big things I want to highlight quickly, again, are their first Wednesday of the month. They meet at the Mountain View School in the cafeteria at 6:30. So that's the first Wednesday of every month. They also have a Remind app that you can sign up, not just for your child's teacher, to send you reminders, but also the PTO can send reminders through Remind. There's the grand opening celebration. The PTO is volunteering with that coming up on October 22nd. And they are in the midst of a fall fundraiser. So if you are looking for something to make you feel happy about what's coming in the spring, even though we're headed into winter, you can buy fall flower bulbs and the money goes to the PTO. And the last thing I want to say is that they have an event. I think it's this Thursday that they're co-sponsoring with ELF and the Easthampton Healthy Youth Coalition and the Emily Wilson Library about raising humans in a digital world. I think Anne was telling us about that to start, but it looks really good. And you can find information about all of that on the PTO website.
Thank you. Anything else?
That's it.
All right. So let's go to our action items.
All right. So I have a few motions for us to make here. I'd like to make a motion to approve the school payroll dated 9/22/2022 in the amount of $589,946.86.
I'll second that.
Second.
Okay. Megan
Harvey, yes.
Maren
Goldstein, yes.
Lori
Garcia, yes.
Mayor
LaChapelle, yes.
Ben
Hersey, yes.
Shannon
Dunham, yes.
Cindy Kuzensky, yes.
All right. I move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 9/22/2022 in the amount of $195,574.13.
Second that.
Okay. Megan
Harvey, aye.
Maren
Goldstein, aye.
Lori
Garcia, aye.
Mayor
LaChapelle, aye.
Ben
Hersey, aye.
Shannon
Dunham, aye.
Cindy Kuzensky, aye.
I move to approve the school payroll dated 9/22/2022 in the amount of $95.64.
Second that.
Megan?
Megan Harvey, aye.
Mary Goldstein, aye.
Lori?
Laurie Garcia, aye.
Mayor?
Mayor LaChapelle, aye.
Ben?
Ben Hersey, aye.
Shannon?
Shannon Dunham, aye.
Cindy Kuzensky, aye.
I move to approve the school payroll dated 10/6/2022 in the amount of $579,772.94.
Second that.
Megan?
Megan Harvey, aye.
Mary Goldstein, aye.
Laurie Garcia, aye.
Mayor?
Ben Hersey, aye.
Shannon?
Shannon Dunham, aye.
Cindy Kuzensky, aye.
And I move to approve the accounts payable authorization for payment dated 10/6/2022 in the amount of $169,886.75.
Second that.
Megan?
Megan Harvey, aye.
Mary Goldstein, aye.
Laurie Garcia, aye.
Mayor?
Mayor LaChapelle, aye.
Ben?
Shannon Dunham, aye. Sorry.
That's okay. Ben, do it again, just so I can hear.
Ben Hersey, aye.
Thank you. Cindy Kuzensky, aye. Okay. All right, so we have an out-of-state trip request. That's what I have on my agenda.
I do too, and I don't have any information on it. There's nothing in the packet, so I think we need to table that for the October 25th
Sounds good.
meeting. Thank you.
All right. All right. So our next meeting dates are October 25th. Oh, November 8th. Did we decide on whether or not we were going to change that date? Or
I
did
think
we
you need to
decide keep
discuss it if you want to.
Yeah. I mean, I think there were a lot of people who just wanted to keep it on the 8th. It is a voting day.
It's fine to keep it. I mean, usually there are elections that are very contentious and there are things that need to be done, but I don't see this as being something that we need to be not meeting. I mean, I
That
don't know.
was my sense, but I wanted to make sure we talked about it before we set that. Is everybody kind of?
I have no issues. Yeah.
Okay.
It's not a nail biter for me, at least.
Okay, good. All right, so October 25th, November 8th, December 13th. Those are our next 3 meetings coming up. Do we have a motion to adjourn?
I would like to move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, Megan?
Megan Harvey, aye.
Maren?
Mary Goldstein, aye.
Lori?
Laurie Garcia, aye.
Mayor?
Mayor LaChapelle, aye.
Ben?
Ben Hersey, aye.
Shannon?
Shannon Dunham, aye.
And Cindy Kuzensky, aye. Well, thank you, everybody, for coming, and we will see you on the 25th. Have a
Good
great
night.
night.
This government meeting is brought to you by Eastworks and our local cable subscribers.